This is Mary Harding interviewing Robert Shea at his home in Newport on January 17th, 1984. Okay. Where were you born?
Newport, Rhode Island.
And where were your parents born?
In Newport, Rhode Island.
What was your father's occupation?
He was a blacksmith and a wagon right.
Did he ever change jobs?
Not to my knowledge.
Did he have more than one job?
Not to my knowledge.
What was your mother's occupation?
Well, she was a housewife, I presume, and then in later years after my father had died, she was a dressmaker.
Can you describe the work that your mother did? I think maybe you've just done that.
Yeah, she made dresses.
Did she work at home or did
At
she
home.
go out?
Yeah. Cottage industries, they call them today, don't
Yeah, right. What kinds of work did your father do as a blacksmith?
Well, they did ornamental ironwork. They shoed horses. They made wagons and drays, and tip carts, and basically, I guess that takes it in.
Did he do any work at home?
No, not to my knowledge. I wouldn't know.
What sort of a shop did he have?
They had a regular. Oh yeah, they had
Where
a regular
was it?
blacksmith shop. Well, one time it was. I guess it was over on either. I'm a little vague of this. They lived on Tilden Avenue, which was then, I think, Green Lane, and it was either on Burnside or Callender.
Off of Broadway.
Yeah, no, off of West Broadway. It was either Burnside or Callender. I'm vague about that. Then they went down to the west end of the Perry Mill building, the building that's now for what's that name of it?
I mean, the Newport Bay Club.
Bay Club.
Right.
They were there for a good many years. I guess they were there until he died, and my father died soon after. I don't know the time span, but and then there wasn't anybody to run the business anymore, so they gave the business up. And it'd be going out. It would be phasing out anyway.
Yeah. How many brothers and sisters did
I
you
had
have?
one brother who died way back in 1921 or 22, and I had a sister that died not too many years ago.
So your brother died before he grew up. I mean, he was.
No, he was they were both older. Older than I.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, did he?
He was a prominent Rogers High School athlete.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about your sister? Did she?
My sister
work
was
in
never
Newport?
married. She worked in Newport. She worked at the Boston store for a good many years, and then she was a bookkeeper for a number of for an oil company. Before she passed away.
What kinds of things did your family enjoy doing together?
What did we enjoy doing together? Well, basically, we used to go. This was a three-alarm fire too. We used to go to Providence. My mother had some friends there. We'd ride up, as my recollection, in a trolley car. Go over the Mount Hope Bay in some ferry, and take another trolley or train into Providence, and then make another change. Now, that didn't exhaust you before the day was over.
And what did you do when you got to Providence?
Well, I friends across the...
Oh yeah, visiting.
Visiting,
Yeah.
that was about it, yeah. We used to go to the beach frequently, you know.
Mhm.
That was always part of that routine.
I guess I should. It doesn't seem to be here. Where did you live? Did you live in? Whereabouts in Newport?
We lived on Mann Avenue.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's where I was born, and that my father, or my grandfather Shea, built that house for my father and mother.
Oh.
Rather nice, huh?
Yeah. Where did you play, and who did you play with? This means as a young child.
As a young child in that neighborhood in Mann Avenue, I went to Calvert Cranston School, And across was a parishioner of St. Joseph's Church, which was right around the corner, just rolling around the corner there.
Besides your parents, sister, and brother, did you have any other family living in Newport?
Oh yes, my grandfather Albert lived there, and all the aunts, which were many of my father.
It's your father's sister.
Father's sisters, yeah. There were many of them.
How often did you see them?
Very frequently. Apparently my mother was on very good terms with her sister-in-laws, because we went to visit. I know that. I'm speaking now as I suppose as a small child, right?
Yeah, oh
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, all right.
Young, yeah.
Yeah, up to 10, 12
Right.
years old.
In what ways were they important to you? I mean, did you ever stay with them, or did they babysit for you, or?
Not now. Not that I have any recollection of that until my cousins were older, and then of course we'd stay at each other's houses and things of that nature. But not as youngsters. I don't just remember.
Mm-hmm. Did anyone live with you? Another relative, or?
No. There was just the three of us, and four of us before my brother died.
Did your mother have interests in activities outside the home?
Yeah, I suppose so. Church activities are about this size of it. I can't remember him being very active in any social clubs or carrying the banner for Carrie Nason or anything of that. Anything of that nature.
How about your father?
I have no recollection of it really, because I was too small, and I was very small when he died.
Did they discuss your future with you?
I don't believe so, I'm sure. I don't, if they did, I don't think they did. Like any child, he wanted to be a fireman or a policeman or anything like that, I'm sure. I think they ought to strike that question. Huh?
Well, good. Where did you meet your wife?
Oh, she was a neighbor. And we were friendly.
She lived on Man Avenue?
She lived on Bush Street, which is a connecting street between Man Avenue and Narrow Street.
Did you go to school together?
Yes.
Went to Rogers?
Yeah, went to Rogers.
Did you ever have a nickname?
No, just Bob, that's all We're lost. No tape. Oh, and I went up there to take some courses in cooking and things.
Yeah.
Very interesting. It's a lot of fun. So we had gone to about 3 sessions, and this young girl said to me, she said, "Mr. Shakes, do you know what that woman's talking about?" I said, "Not always." She was a chaplain's wife in the Navy. She had a southern, dripping southern accent. I didn't know what the hell she was saying some of the time. So I hope this girl said the same thing, so it came out all right. Now I saved the picture of these girls. And this is interesting. The fellow that took the picture is Lloyd Pawley, Sam Rambley. Did I tell you about the country club and Mrs. Shea?
Yeah.
Okay, they had the White Elephant Ball over there. Or maybe they had more than one.
No.
Those are some of the debutantes. I kept that one. The names are on the back.
They're all dressed alike.
Apparently they were like ushers or usherettes, or what would they be?
I know.
Huh?
I don't know. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
When was this taken?
Well, I'm guessing 36. 38. 30. I don't know. Somewhere like that. 35.
It's cute.
What?
No, just,
And obeyed the city council.
just quickly. Now we'll go over again education. Now, where did you go to school?
In Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And I went 1 year to Rogers High School.
And before that, you said it was Cranston.
Calvert School, public schools in Newport.
And did you think your school experiences were valuable?
Yes, I do.
Did you learn, I asked you before, did you have any other education?
No, I had no other education experience.
And how about your occupation? You told me that you had...
Well, I was I presume, politically motivated, and as a result of that, I was elected by a partisan city council to the post of city clerk, and subsequently retained as a deputy clerk for many years.
How many years were you city clerk?
Well, and in the beginning I was 2 years, and then I went back. I was reappointed by one of the city managers for 9 years.
And you ran for the legislature, you said?
Back in the 40s, yes,
40s.
around the time of the war. Yep.
And you had how many terms again?
2 terms. Yep.
Okay. Now we'll do the religious part. Did your parents go to church?
Yes.
How often?
Very frequently. Excuse me, but didn't we have that prior to the other? Doesn't, okay, just.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
I'm just going
No,
right.
all right, yeah, okay, all right. I thought.
Frequently, was
Yes,
it
frequently,
every
yes,
Sunday?
right. Yep, yep.
Do you remember the building, the church building?
Oh, yes, I do. St. Joe's Church on Broadway. Yeah.
And it's still the same as it was?
Yeah.
when
Well,
you-
it's been renovated on the main floor to some degree.
Now, about your Sundays, you said they were
Well,
family times?
Always, they're very good times. We always went on. We go and have dinner at my grandfather's very, very frequently. My grandfather and grandmother, and there was a custom. My uncles would take us for a walk. We would walk out the railroad tracks, out to St. Columbus Cemetery, and then in on the main road.
How far was it?
Well, I don't suppose basically in miles it isn't that far. It's maybe 3 or 4 miles out and in.
That's a
I don't
long
think
walk.
it's-
That's a long walk.
Yeah. We were a lot younger.
And you went to Sunday school?
Yes. Yep.
Every Sunday?
Yep. And we
Um,
went during the week too. I remember.
Did you?
Yeah. I can't remember the days now, but
CCD classes
yeah,
or something
I
like
think
that?
that's right.
Did
Yep.
they call them that then?
Well, they didn't call them. No.
No, I didn't think so.
No, they didn't. You went to first communion class, then you went to confirmation class, then you went to something else. I don't know.
And on religious holidays, did you always go to church?
Yep. On holy days, of course.
Holidays. And any other traditional things you did on Christmas or Easter or?
No, Christmas, I think the older folks were very, we always had presents, we had toys, we had clothing, we had stockings with an orange in it, which was a great thing in those days, to find an orange in your stocking.
And once again, what did your parents think of the local priest?
No comment. I don't think they ever expressed it. They did express it. They didn't express it in front of me, I suppose. That's women out of that one, too.
Now, the next was the neighborhood business. But I think we'll do your children first. When were your children born? No, I guess I'm sorry. You had 6 children?
6 children, yeah. They were all born in Newport, all born at the Newport Hospital.
And your wife took care of them herself?
Oh, and with help from her friends and relatives.
And who disciplined the children?
We both did.
And did anyone tell them stories about the family?
Yeah, oh yes, yeah.
And were they read to?
Yes.
And were they free to play with anyone they
Yes.
pleased? Did they turn out the way you wanted them to turn out?
Well, I thought to be pretty good children. I
You
think.
pleased?
Yeah, I certainly am.
I think you told me before where they all live. You said
Yeah, well, that's right. Let me think. One girl lives down in the lower section of the city. Another girl lives on East Bowery Street. That's the one that never got off the street. And my son lives over in the Point, and the other boy lives on East Bowery Street. And I have two children that live in the Providence area.
all right, very good. And you're quite close to them, I guess.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And how about the grandchildren? You see a lot
Oh,
of
I
them?
see them. Oh, I see them frequently.
How
And they
old?
come and stay with me.
Do they?
Oh yeah.
How old are they? How old's the youngest?
The youngest
little
one,
one.
yeah, little Jimmy. He's 9 months to. Oh, who's the oldest? Stephen, I guess the oldest. Stephen must be 10, 11. They run in that range.
Do they see a lot of each other too?
Oh, they
They're
do.
all
Yeah,
close together.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's go on to the neighborhood thing. How long have you lived in this neighborhood?
10 years.
And how did you choose the house? Tell me.
I think it was vacant and we moved in it. That's all I know.
And the changes, again, in the neighborhood. You said there were.
Basically, I didn't see any difference in any of the neighborhoods that I lived in.
Mm-hmm.
They all seemed to be substantially the same as the people who worked and lived in pretty much harmony.
And in most of the neighborhoods, were there single houses or were they doubles or apartments?
Most of the neighborhoods were single occupied homes. There's been a tendency later, I think, to break homes up into apartments because economic.
Did most people in the neighborhoods own their own houses?
Yes, they did.
And about the ethnic groups, were the neighborhood mostly one ethnic group, or were there different groups?
No, I say they were mostly one ethnic group.
Mm-hmm. And did they all get along?
Yep, I'd say yes.
And you exchanged visiting. You visited back and forth with neighbors for
No, yes, sure.
a meal, or
Yeah, they're friendly.
do you remember any occasion when neighbors helped someone in trouble in the neighborhood?
Oh yes, they were helpful to each other and to us.
And you shopped in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
What was the name of the shop?
Well, in the Man Avenue area, there was the big market of Tisdale's Market and Murphy's Market, which was on the corner of Collins Street, and there were other neighborhood stores. And then when we moved from there to East Bowery Street, they were just starting the shopping centers, and the A&P and Ormex were close by, and good Rose Nelson's good old store was there, where you could get hamburg, milk, bread. And the girls used to charge stockings when they went to school. Used to be in the bill. Stocking. I often wondered what all the stockings.
You say that's still there.
Oh, sure she is, yeah. Yeah.
Were there any special places like that, other than the store, that people went to congregate?
No.
A community center or anything like that?
No, I'd say basically no. Not really.
Now, where did your children play?
In Freebody Park and on the street.
Now, I've asked you about your children. So did your children stay or move? They all stayed pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah.
And where did people in your neighborhood work, and what did they do?
A lot of people in the neighborhood around East Bowery Street, a good many people worked the civil service capacity for the government, the United States government, at the piers and at the war colleges, at the
Torpedo
naval
station?
training station, the torpedo station, that sort of thing.
Did most of the people in your neighborhood earn similar incomes? Or
I'd
did
say,
they-
yeah, I believe they did.
In the same range?
There wasn't much discrepancy in their income, no.
Did you have much in common with your neighbors, did you feel?
Yeah, I suppose.
Was there a neighborhood feeling?
Not a strong feeling, no. No.
When you first moved in, how long did it take you to
Oh, we
feel as though you were part of the
we
neighborhood?
made friends right away.
And most of your friends, did they live nearby?
Yes.
In your neighborhood?
Yeah.
Were some in other neighborhoods? What do you like most? What did you like most about your various neighborhoods?
Still run. They were compatible, pleasant places to live. Good, hard-working people there. But I didn't know.
No, wait a minute.
Yep.
All right. Now, did you ever join any civic organization?
No, I never belonged to any civic. The only civic organization I belonged to was the Democratic City Committee.
Do you think there was a difference in terms of social prestige in the different organizations in the city? No, different. Well, of course, Knights of Columbus is religious, but the Elks and all those. Do you think they were?
I don't. I really can't answer the question because I don't know.
All right. What group had political power, or what groups, if there was more than one?
Groups. Now we're talking about in
Well, let's
Newport,
talk about while you were city clerk.
Oh, well, I think basically the city council, they were, of course, as always, and then and now, are subject to certain political pressures, but I think the councils that I knew made up their own minds of the direction they were going and what they were going to do.
How long has Newport had a city council?
1950, well, city council, well, let's form a government.
Yeah, this fall.
This form of government, 52.
That's pretty new,
53,
really.
something like that.
Before that, what was it? Just a.
Partisan. Yeah. First they started, way back, they had a huge council. They had 195 people, and then they whittled that down to 5 from each ward, and then 4 from each ward, and then
Now it's one.
the councils were the executive power under that charter then was vested in the mayor and the board of aldermen, and then the council was the appropriating body. So if they didn't get any money up, you'd forget it. Whatever they did.
Well, when they divided the city up into wards.
Yep.
Do you think it was along neighborhood lines? I mean, were there neighborhoods with it more than one neighborhood?
No, I think it was pretty much about a division by population. I think they might have been even ahead of themselves. One man, one vote. I think that's what they were really doing. You know, they didn't want one section to have many more people than another.
Yeah.
Try to make it even.
Yeah. And who ran the city, do you think?
Well, I think before I answer, I think the city councils basically made their own decisions and their orders and transferred them to the various city managers.
Were some wards or neighborhoods, areas more powerful than others, do you think?
Well, yes, I think that, and I think so even now, that the fourth ward is still more politically minded than any other section of the city.
The fourth
ward.
Now, who ran the state?
I can't get them off the hook as easily, can I?
No, you can't.
Well, I in my judgment of the state, the power, the political power that's there now, that the Democrats were out of power for many, many years. People forget the fact that they were not in power for almost a century. And what is it? Power corrupts. I think that's it,
That's
isn't it?
right. Absolute power
And
corrupts
that,
absolutely, or something like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And that's about what they're heading now, too. Because they've been too long,
Yeah.
Trent.
Yeah.
And
When did the Democrats finally get in after that?
and the Green in 32.
32.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Oh,
Was it
we
right?
all remember. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. We all remember that.
Mhm.
Green. Governor Green.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And at that time, was there a huge change? I mean, were many of the, I mean, all the.
Oh, there was a big, oh, sure, there was a big turnover then because they vacated, the legislature vacated the entire Supreme Court of the state of Rhode Island because they couldn't get an opinion that would be favorable, and then they put the Democratic power in. That was the first move they made.
And have the Democrats been in? The Democrats were in until who was the first Republican recently?
John Chafee. Yeah.
I remember that. When was that? That was.
Well, Chafee's been up there, what?
Yeah.
He must be going for his second or third term. He was governor also.
He was governor. That's what I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that what are the other powerful groups in the state besides who else runs the state?
The bankers. I don't think the bankers run the state. I don't know whether they call all the shots, but they call a good many of them. See, the mill owners and people like that are kind of dissipated over the years. There isn't that grip they had. You have to set that off a minute and can I ask you? Catch it. Good book.
I will. How do you feel about living in Newport?
I like living in Newport. I'm very happy here.
All right. Now, have you anything else? Anything you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to say about your family, or your, any thing about your biography or yourself that you might like to
No, I
put
have
down?
too much to add to anything. I don't think. Make this one nice.
That's right. It looks great.
Yeah.
So the first topic is World War I, and I know you were too young.
I don't have many. No, I don't have many
But did-
recollections of that.
Did you or did anyone in your family serve in the war? Or did
No,
you
my
hear
father was
anything?
dead, and I don't remember any of the others. No.
Well, then the next topic is the summer colony, and they're talking about the up through the 20s. Now, do you remember what life was like in Newport during that time, or would you be too young?
No, well, fairly young, but I do recall that I guess going around and seeing where they would have the setup for these parties and balls
You mean
and that
tents and
nature,
things like
tents
that.
and things of that nature. That's right.
Uh,
And then, of course, later on, I suppose I gotta think now of the time. Later on, I worked as a delivery boy for the big market, for Murphy's Market,
did you?
and we delivered
So you delivered
to the
big
orders.
estate.
Yeah, to the big estates, and that's how I guess we knew. I guess that's how I got to know them from that personal knowledge.
How old were you when you did this? When you were a delivery boy?
Oh, I suppose 16, 17, a teenager, middle teenager.
How were Newporters affected by this part of society, do you think?
Well, affected in the way that it provided them with employment. Many people worked there permanently. I give the example of my father-in-law, who was the chief engineer for Arthur Curtis James. He worked for James for 40 years.
Did he? On the Aloha, though?
On the Aloha, yeah. Yeah.
How did Newporters feel about the summer colonists, do you think?
Oh, I think they were my recollection, and they were very, very favorably disposed to them.
How about the summer colonists' feelings toward Newporters?
I couldn't reflect that.
Here's a question. What was Maid's Night Out? Now, this is in quotation marks.
Maid's Night Out.
Was there always a special night that was Maid's Night Out?
Not that I know. I remember that they used the maids and they used to go down at the 40 steps and somebody play
Accordion?
Accordion. And they danced there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Right
there on that little
the
platform.
street,
Yeah. But I don't know, was it night out or
This was in the daytime.
No,
Or
at night. In the summertime.
Yeah, summertime.
Right.
How about changes in the summer colony? They're talking about leading up to the Depression, I guess.
Well, changes, yes, because they didn't have as many as in the later years. They didn't have as many in health.
Mm-hmm.
I can't quote.
That's what it wants to know. How was Newport?
I can't quote exactly, but I remember when a couple of seasons when that Breakers was in full, they had the full complement.
Mm-hmm.
They were feeding in servants probably, I dare say, maybe 40 to 50 people.
On a regular basis.
Yeah, 3 times a day, sure. So naturally, when I guess the Depression and hard times came, a lot of that was eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about it. It was eliminated.
Do you know what kind of work these people would have turned to after
the people who worked, I suppose they're
worked.
saying it's domestics and things like that. Well, I don't know. I really don't.
Did you know anybody who worked in?
Not intimately, not intimately enough to answer a question like that. No.
Did any changes occur in your neighborhood because the summer colony was changing?
No, none that I know.
You didn't know anybody who was laid off or?
None that I know of, no.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Everything seems to be working again. Okay. The Fall River line. Did you ever travel on the Fall River line?
Oh, many times, yes, many times. We had friends in New York, and we used to go back and forth. I wish I could remember accurately the fare. It seemed to me that was so reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a staple. And
what do you remember most
one
about?
One of my cousins, Bob Arbo, and I used to go down and visit his uncle. It was his mother's brother, and he was George Widener's New York chauffeur.
Oh.
And he used to take us to all kinds of plays and shows, and which is incidental too. If you shut it off, I'll tell you. Just come on. Here.
Did you know anybody who worked for the Fall River line?
Oh yes, I had an uncle. My grandfather worked down there, and I as a matter of fact, I worked there myself.
Well, what did you do?
I was a painter. I painted lifeboats and outside the decks and things. Nothing delicate, believe me.
Yeah. What about your uncle?
My uncle was an accountant. He was the chief accountant for them. Yeah.
Did he travel on the boats or was
No,
he
he
on
was
the shore?
here. Yeah, based in Newport. Yeah. I suppose that's how I got the job. Nepotism had to be. Huh? How else?
What about, you said you had another relative or a friend what other job did
Well, my grandfather, he worked down there as a painter in his later days,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I guess they had 600-700 men, as many as that.
Do you think it affected the city of Newport? I mean, lots of people were.
Oh, yes, it did.
Now, what about after they went out of business? Were you affected by it?
No, I wasn't, because
What about your uncle?
I think he had sufficient time to retire. He died soon after that. Not too long, but.
Did you know many people who were out of work because of it?
Oh, yes, we all knew. It was a blow to the community at the time. One of the many that Newport suffered over the years.
Did you have any experiences that you might not otherwise have had because of the closing of the line in Newport?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Where did most of the people who worked for the Fall River Line live?
As a matter of fact, they lived on the Point section in that, and if my memory serves me right, they had an hour for lunch and they would walk home and eat and walk back.
Where were the offices? Right on.
And they're right in the where what is now, well, it's now Fleet Landing. It's what
Shipyard,
they call it,
whatever.
Newport Shipyard. They were right there. The offices were there. Yeah.
Do you think that Long Wharf and the Point was changed because of the
Oh,
loss
it
of the Fall
was.
River
It
Line?
was.
What did the visitors do that came when they got into town? Where did they stay? That the came in on the Fall River Line boats.
It seemed to me most of those people were members of the summer colony who would travel up from New York on the line and come, and the taxis would just take them down. I don't think there was an influx of, in my knowledge, there wasn't any influx of visitors as a result.
Right around the Point.
No, I don't.
They mostly went off.
I
other
would
places.
say. I don't think so. Tourism, no. Using that word, maybe I don't think anybody knew of tourism then.
And what were your feelings about the tourists the Fall River Line brought?
I just don't think, maybe there were, but I don't think there were.
Was your neighborhood affected?
No.
In any way?
No.
Do you think the New England Steamship Company shops drew people to Newport, or were most of the employees local?
Most of the employees were local, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, very good.
There was more or less of a father-son arrangement down there. Many of those people,
Yeah.
their fathers worked there before them, and it was only natural that they just
It must have been a
fell
big
into
blow
this
when the
thing.
line went
It
out
was,
of business,
it
because it was
was.
very unexpected, wasn't it? Just
Oh,
so
well,
they were sort of in
there's
bankruptcy.
always reasons, like this. It's going back to the Seaberg-Iver thing up there.
Yeah, that was a
See,
surprise.
it wasn't. I mean, they've been making so many moves against that
Mm.
company. They probably just said, "Hey, come on, let's get out of here." They
Yeah.
don't want us, huh?
I know. I know
Huh?
what you mean.
Sure.
Hmm.
I mean, who needs this?
Mm.
And I think that, transportation was on. The automobile was coming in, and more, and it wasn't. People went down to New York on their honeymoon. Lord, got on the New York boat.
I went on.
And one of the big deals was to go down there on Sunday night. Why Sunday night? I don't know, but load the fish. Nobody ever told you that?
No, onto the boat?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that was you went down there maybe, 7 o'clock, 7:30, and they would barrel after barrel after barrel. These men would roll up the gangplanks into the hold of the ships, and it would be in New York to go to New York.
Well, this is fish that was being
Caught
shipped
here.
to markets in New York, not being used for the restaurant on the.
No. Yeah, that was a Sunday night excursion. And I guess you went to Bubby Langley's over in Chase Street and had some ice cream.
Where'd you go after that?
Bubba Langley's, that was on Chase Street.
Chase Street for ice cream.
Westall had a place
Oh, yeah.
Another ice cream store, Westall, might have been on Bridge Street.
That's right. Originally, Westall did have a place in Newport. Then he moved to Jamestown. Then he
Jamestown.
ended up over on the other side in Saunders.
Sure.
Well, we have another
Don't you
subject.
realize this is a great fun? You all want me to play with a rubber shoe?
Oh, the next topic is the Depression. But you weren't that old.
Well,
when did you see signs that the Depression would hit Newport, or weren't you aware of it?
I don't think I was aware of it, to be perfectly honest with you, because at the time, now we're talking about, when was the Depression?
29? The stock
30s,
market crash was in 29.
29, the 30s. Let's see,
Did you notice that it affected the summer colony at all?
not noticeably. It didn't affect us personally, I guess, because I was working and my sister was working, and we just seemed to be getting along.
Well, did it affect other Newporters? You had a job and you were working. What about?
My sister did, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but did you know people who were affected?
I guess we did, but I really, honestly, I can't in all honesty answer that question properly, because I don't.
How did the Civic Employment Association help Newport?
I don't know what the civic
Yeah.
employment was.
Never heard of it.
I think, you know what they're probably saying? That the WPA, maybe.
No,
they're
this
asking-
is
no.
an organization that
Civic
was
employment?
yeah, it's in capitals.
I'm not aware of it.
What about the
not up-
WPA? Were you aware of the?
The WPA did a lot of good work. I know that one of the things to their everlasting credit is the seawall at Easton's Beach and Freebody Park. Many sidewalks were done by WPA and done well. And stood up over the years. You can go around now and see the plaques on them.
Did the change in federal economic policies help Newport? Well, that's what we were
It-
just talking
Right,
about.
it did. It did. It gave people employment.
Did you know anybody that worked for the WPA?
I suppose I did, but
Don't
I can't remember.
When did the Depression turn around in Newport? Did this happen because of local efforts, or was it due to other causes?
Well, the Depression turned around as it did, I guess, all over the country with the beginning of the war in Europe. But people were gearing up for that before we realized it.
What aspects of the New Deal were most important?
Oh, gosh, I can't say that.
Go ahead.
Well, not really. No, I think that the New Deal, that people had a little more, had confidence then in the country, and went about their business. I think it was a good deal for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people have been suffering, and in this part of the country, the economic situation wasn't that bad. Even the mills weren't that bad. They were bad enough, but then the West, where all that soil and those farms were lost and all that, they suffered much more than we did. My judgment.
Did the end of Prohibition help Newport endure the Depression?
Prohibition helped Newport. Prohibition went out around 1932, right? 32, 33, they came back. I have an interesting, I was working in the drugstore then. I stood in the window, and I stood in the doorway, as many times people in shops did. And Mr. Corcoran, Mr. Edward J. Corcoran, the lawyer, came by, and Tissell had the first display of liquor in the
That's
window.
where you were working.
I was working in the drugstore,
Oh,
next
I see. Oh,
to
I-
Tissells.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Corcoran came by and he looked at the window, and I remember that he said, he looked at all the display, and he said, artificial sociability. I can remember that. Mr. Cochran.
Well, we're going to get to more about Prohibition in a little bit. Let's see. Another Depression question. How did rumors that the torpedo station would be closed affect Newport during this period? Did you know of any
The
rumors?
torpedo station didn't really close until I can't.
Evidently, there were rumors that it would be closed.
Well, there were always rumors. That was nothing new. I mean, there were always rumors about that, and they were always sending delegates down there. They spent half the time sending people to Washington. I guess no, they never had a commanding officer over there. The police, the machinist union. That was pretty obvious, because I remember reading that in the paper all the time.
When the Fall River line closed, did this threaten Newport's recovery from the Depression?
Oh, of course, yeah. It threatened it. It was a part of it.
Let's go on then to Prohibition. How old were you when the 18th Amendment was passed?
I think I was 20, probably 33. Yeah, I'd be 20.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of the drinking
Do you remember
age.
it? Do you remember?
Of course. And of the drinking
How
age.
did you feel about it?
How did I feel about
Yeah.
Prohibition?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a terrible restriction on one's liberty.
Did you think it was good for the country?
No, of course not.
What about your friends? What was their
They were
reaction?
all of an equal opinion. Yeah.
Did you ever hear stories about smuggling and rum running?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure
Did you
we
ever
did.
see any of the boats?
No. Well, probably we did, yes. This one was pointed out of that one. I can't be specific on any point like that. But we knew it took place.
When
We
smugglers,
heard stories about it.
when smugglers were caught, do you think people sympathized with them or with the law?
They sympathized with the smugglers.
How about speakeasies? Were there any in your neighborhood?
Sure, well, not in our neighborhood, but there were speakeasies around. And there was always a place you could get a drink.
Was there one particular neighborhood where you thought of speakeasies as being?
Not, I can't be specific on that. No, that's not specific enough for me.
Did you know any people who made and sold home brew?
Sure, everybody that was capable of doing it did it. And I remember we used to sell essence of coriander and what was another thing? And glycerin. People bought the alcohol and made gin with it. I can't think of the other thing. Coriander, juniper.
Yeah.
Juniper.
That goes
Came
into gin.
in. We used to buy it in pint bottles, and then we dispense it. Then they put it in glycerin, I guess, to solidify it or something. So take some of
That's
the
awful.
taste on it and put it in the alcohol. Made gin. That was so-called bathtub gin. Why they call it bathtub gin, I don't know.
Didn't people used to make it in big quantities in the bathtub? That's why.
Maybe, I guess. I don't know. I never saw anybody make it that way.
After repeal, did bootleggers continue in the liquor business?
Oh no, they were shut right out.
Do you think the gangster influence late in Prohibition days affected Newport?
No. Yeah, gangsters, man. We were sophisticated drinkers that obtained it in a sophisticated manner.
Did the local police really go out to keep order when Newporters were gathering in boxes of liquor that washed ashore after a boat had been sunk? This really happened.
Yes, it did happen, but
You don't remember?
I don't know of any police action. If they had any sense, they'd have been there too.
Do you remember when that happened? When the
No, not the specific happening, but it did.
Do you feel most people in Newport wanted Prohibition or didn't want it?
Most people didn't want it.
Didn't want it. Okay. The next topic is the Hurricane of '38. Where were you during the
I
'38
had
hurricane?
just been married at that time. In fact, that was the year I was married. I was working for the Hancock Insurance Company.
Here in town?
Yeah. And I remember the late Herbert McCauley was also an agent. And we were having a meeting, and there was another man, and I thought McCauley was very rude because he kept going and looking out the window.
Where was the office?
Upstairs on 10th Street, right over Potter's Clothing Company.
Oh, yeah.
And finally he told everybody to go home.
What time of day was this?
It was just like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the house that I was living in then, I was only a bride and groom, that's all. We were married in what, May, and this was September.
September.
And I came home as actually it was at McCauley's behest that we all got out of there.
And you walked home.
I guess.
Well, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Do you remember seeing any damage or any?
Well, I was coming, I was coming, and I remember there was a policeman by the name of Baca who was on that beat. He was, to me, of course, being a young man, maybe he wasn't as elderly as I thought he was. He appeared to be elderly. And the Thayer School was right there on Church Street. And I was going in the house, and he said, "Look at that roof." That roof came out of that school just like a cigar.
Goodness, this was the roof on the school. It just came right off.
Because I'm sure he'd never seen a hurricane, and neither had I.
Where did it go? It fell down and...
Lord knows.
Yeah.
It was, it's just seeing it go off. And then we stayed in the house that the rest, and there were other people. There was an apartment because we were there, and people named Leonard. There was somebody else lived there too, the landlady. And we went out that night. Which we shouldn't have. I mean, just out only to the corner there, where the reading room was. Now we could see all the trees there.
Was it still blowing? It was over?
Oh yeah, sure. We shouldn't have been out. Because you didn't know.
And then you went out to see the damage?
Oh, well, yeah, we didn't stay out too long that night. We were out of power. We were out of power, 3 or 4 days, as I recall. And the next day was a beautiful day. And we could see all the damage that was done. We took pictures across. Everybody took pictures.
What other damage can you remember in your neighborhood where you...
Oh, all the trees were down, the branches, and the typical damage that would be done by a hurricane. Roofs ripped off.
I bet your own building. Your own
I guess that house was pretty secure. I don't remember anything really happening to that.
Did the hurricane change your life in any long-term way?
No.
Did the hurricane change Newport permanently?
Yes, they made some different changes as far as like where Bailey's Beach got blown right off it. I think the road was changed there. The beach was repaired and in a different manner than it was.
What is the most unusual or dramatic story you recall from that hurricane?
Well, I can't answer that specifically, but I think that everyone was appalled by the number of deaths and the death and destruction that did take place. That people were unaware of those. People were unaware of anything like that.
It had been a long time.
But they had no memory of it, no recollection,
Right.
and no warning.
How was Newport rebuilt? You mentioned Bailey's Beach and seawalls. Do you remember any other
Yeah, well,
buildings
as
that
I
were-
recall, the rebuilding of the hurricane, a lot of that was done by municipal bonds. The city floated money and, bought bonds and.
What
and
about the federal
Federal
government?
government came in with a share of things. Yep. Yep.
Who was involved in this effort? That's what we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
It was both local and
Local and federal and
Federal.
state even got into the act.
Okay, very good. On to another topic. World War II and the torpedo station. How was Newport changed into a Navy town by World War II?
Newport never wasn't changed into it. I think Newport's always been a Navy town.
Exactly.
I think it was the number of people employed there kept growing larger and larger and larger. My recollection, I think one time they said they had 13,000 employed. They were running on 3 shifts. Ferry seemed to be going constantly back and forth from the government land and to the station.
Do you think this was good or bad for Newport?
Well, it was good in the economic way, and the loss of it was bad, and also in an economic way.
Was your family life disrupted by World War II?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say so. I wasn't. I didn't serve. I wasn't in the. Shut up. Yeah. Somebody must have. That'll go good.
All right. Did many of your friends, were their lives disrupted? They go
Oh yes, many. Practically all of my friends are in the service.
What was it like for their wives and children
Well,
at home?
many of them weren't married at the time.
Mhm.
They married subsequent to that.
How did the rationing system work?
Oh, I suppose as well as could be expected under the circumstances. I mean, it was.
Well,
Matter of fact, I still have I have some books.
do you?
Yeah.
Ration book?
Ration books, yeah.
Do you remember how did it work? Where did you go to get your ration books? And
Had offices.
at the office of...
They had, it was not the post office, but I don't remember.
I remember my mother giving me the...
We got them somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where do we get them?
And then when you went to the
Store,
store...
you peeled them off.
Mhm.
Yep. The same with the gasoline for the car. That's a good. I wonder where we got those books. Now that you mention it,
I don't remember either.
the post office. They're a federal thing.
Yeah. Did you know anyone in the National Guard or 10th Coast Artillery at Fort Adams at the time the defenses were being beefed up in 1940?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember.
Did you know anyone employed in civilian construction at the naval bases?
I was.
What was that like?
See what a checkered career I had.
Yeah.
Well, my Fred Haas, who was a friend of mine and lived on Mann Avenue, worked for Gilbane, and they had just taken over the anchorage from Hope Fairchild in Philadelphia. Had the contract, and I guess
Where was this?
the anchorage was one of the first things they were building
Oh,
in Middletown.
yeah.
Was one of the first things Gilbane was building.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a chance to go out there, and Fred did get me the job. And I
What
worked
did you do?
I was a timekeeper. I worked for them for some time there.
What is a time?
Well, we saw the men checked in and checked out, and saw that they built all those warehouses behind the anchorage. They built the Marine barracks, which was there. They started some of the stuff at the underwater ordnance. Yeah, I remember Andy Reagan, a concrete building. One day, they were pouring concrete that collapsed, and Andy Reagan was a cement finish. He went right through with the, but not even hurt.
Really? Huh. Well, did you leave a job for, was this a higher paying war job, war-related job? And did you know anyone who left their jobs for?
I think many people did, because it was they wanted you. They
paid better.
They paid better.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this had an effect on local industries like
Very much so.
Newport?
Yeah, very much so. It did.
Mm-hmm. Did the concentration of Navy preparations and defenses in the area give people a sense of security, or just the opposite? Were you afraid of being a target for?
I don't think that. I didn't ever enter my mind. I don't know whether it entered anybody else's.
Did you or any members of your family do any volunteer work? Red Cross, USO, anything like that?
They pitched in on that. Yep.
Was your neighborhood affected in any way by the increased number of servicemen and defense people?
Oh yeah, it made more congestion, and more apartments were harder to get a hold of, houses and rent. And there was an influx of people in every neighborhood as a result.
What kind of security measures do you remember for civil defense?
Oh yeah, the
Blackout. Did you have those?
The automobile with the half the what was it? The headlight being blacked out, cut down.
You had blackout curtains.
Blackout curtains, and the wardens going by. And, I remember that real well.
Did you know anybody that worked at the torpedo station?
Oh yeah, sure, everybody. Everybody must have worked there. Yes, yeah.
Remember any stories about working at the torpedo?
None that I can, specifically recall.
Do you have any particular vivid memories of the World War II years? Remember VE Day, for instance?
Yeah, we were all
VJ Day?
We were all pretty happy it was over.
Any particular special times or?
No, nothing particular on
that. Let's go to the departure of the Navy. Back. Do you think the departure of the Navy was a gain or a loss for Newport?
Definite loss.
In what ways did the city change after the fleet left?
It changed to the extent that all the Navy personnel who had been living here and raising their families and renting and buying left the area, and it had the city had to turn around and seek other means of revenue, or not necessarily revenue, it's a good word.
Yeah. How do you think most Newporters felt about the Navy leaving?
In my judgment, they're exceedingly bitter about it. I think some of their thoughts might have been directed to Richard Milhouse Nixon, too. I think there might have been a little retaliatory there.
Do you think all of Newport was affected equally when the Navy left?
No, they couldn't have been. Some people were unaffected by anything.
Did you know anybody who lost a job because of the Navy leaving?
Sure, lots of people did.
Do you know what did they do?
Well, they did the best they could.
Did they find other jobs?
Tried to find out another job if they could, sure.
Do you think this affected your particular neighborhood in any way?
No, not that much. Enough, though. A lot of people moved out that were living there. We knew. Moved away.
And how did the fleet pullout affect you personally? Was your job affected?
No, it was not. It was not affected.
Or your standard of living, or?
No, it wasn't affected.
Do you think that the city was caught by surprise?
Yes, I do. I think they really got bound on that one. They didn't know much about that one. Yes, I do.
Do you think any government agencies helped the city to adapt to the change?
They did. They helped.
Why do you think so many Navy people retired here?
Well, because it's a nice place to live. They had experience in other places during their careers, and it's a chance to live in other places, and they find that it's a pleasant, quiet.
Do you think there's any particular part of town where the Navy
No, I don't.
retired
No,
and
I
settled?
no, I don't think so. No. They're around, pretty much around every place. Different neighborhoods. For everything, buy a house. All depends.
What did they do when they settle here? Any
Get
particular?
another job.
Seems right.
Or probably with the government, or Raytheon, or some other agency.
Now, here's a goodie. Describe a Friday or Saturday night on Thames Street when the fleet was here. Or say during the war.
I don't know. In any large congregation and body of men that are here, you're bound to have some rowdyism and some vandalism, but I don't believe it's anything like they tried to depict it to be. They had, I can remember the guys telling them of fights they had with Marines and sailors years ago. So that's things. I think the emphasis that they've made about the fleet and that has been an exaggeration. There.
Good. Well, let's go on to something else.
I mean, these references to Blood Alley. I don't even ever remember hearing a call Blood Alley.
Neither do I.
No. I see. I need a lot of this stuff. Come on, let's dispel some of these.
Let's go on to the Jazz Festival.
Yep.
Can you describe Newport during the Jazz Festival?
The beginning,
Yeah.
or the well, I
Any
think.
of them. Any of them.
Well, I think the first festival was held at the casino, the Newport Casino, and it was an ideal setting. And my good friend John J. Sullivan was mayor, and we were privileged to go somewhere. I can't remember where it was after the festivities. And we met some of the participants in the festival.
Oh.
Can't remember the way. I'm not awful. I can't remember where.
But you did attend
But,
the festival.
it was good. And then in the festival had the riot, which was been 60 something.
Yeah. What do you think caused the riots?
Oh, letting the people drink on the street, ride around in cars, and not trying to curb any rowdyism and vandalism. That's what caused it. And the fact that they oversold, they had a capacity of so many people, and they oversold the tickets, and people were kind of fired up at the firewater and wanted to get in. That's what caused it.
Do you think that your neighborhood was threatened, where people
Oh,
worried?
we lived right by. We were on East Forest Street. We were right there in the neighborhood. Yeah.
What was that like? You must have
Well,
been scared.
It was hairy there for a while, but not that bad, you know.
Was there any damage? Broken windows? Or
Oh,
anything?
yeah, there was. Yeah. Memorial Boulevard, the next day I never saw so many beer cans and bottles, and I don't think I ever saw it. That's, yeah.
Do you think the festival should have been continued in '72?
What is 70? They had that? Oh, they're talking about the other one. They had the other time they had up in Festival Field, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
How do you feel about the way the city handled the disturbances?
Well, under the circumstances, they handled them pretty well. Nobody was killed, and with the capability that they had, they did a good job.
How do you feel about living in a place which attracts events like the Jazz Festival? Or any big...
Doesn't bother me.
Do you like it? Is it...
Yeah, I don't mind. I like people.
Well, very good. You don't remember the performers. You went to... Because you were a friend of Mayor Sullivan, you went to meet some of the jazz musicians.
Yeah, some of the musicians.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, the next topic is the Newport Bridge and ferry. Did you take the ferry from Newport very
Oh,
often?
frequently, yes. One of the best recollections of the old ferry was when the children were small. You could give them 15 cents, and they would go down and ride back and forth to Jamestown and Newport on the ferry until they were bored with it.
So most of
Count cars.
what were most of the reasons for your trips? Was it recreation like that?
Oh, yeah, sure. Take a nice ride. It was a nice place. It was a nice thing to do, ride on the ferry. A lot of fun.
Do you remember rides, any particular rides on the ferry that were
No.
anything special happened? Run into another
No.
boat?
No, we always had, guess we had good ferry masters.
What were some of the problems with the ferry system? Do you have any thoughts on
Oh,
that?
sure. The problem was they weren't capable of taking care of the traffic. The cars were building up, and the people had to wait so long they get irritated.
How about the finances? Did you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about the finance, but I'm sure they weren't making any money.
No, they didn't. How did you feel about the building of the bridge to Jamestown?
I thought it was a great idea. Still do.
Any thoughts on where they put it? Why they put it where they did?
Well, that was a hassle getting it. That was a hassle even then, getting it there. They wanted it here, they wanted it there. Well, it's there now, so.
Would you have rather had it somewhere else?
I don't haven't any strong feelings about that. No, I didn't have any.
How do you think it changed Newport?
Well, it made us more accessible to the other side of the
west,
bay, to the west. Of course, it made it easy to get down to New York and places to that, anywhere in that direction. Build it up.
Made it easier for New Yorkers to get.
You get here too, by the same token, and to get down the Cape.
Okay, very good. And the next topic is the restoration and redevelopment. When were you first aware that there was a need to change the deteriorating parts of the city? Were some of these streets and buildings near you?
Oh, it was pretty obvious that to anybody that went around that the buildings were in decay, and it seems to me the first recollection I have of any measures being taken in that, steps taken in that direction were under Mrs. Pepys, with Operation Clapboard. And of course I was in the city hall, and she came in there frequently, good story about it.
No, go ahead, tell me.
No.
You don't.
She used to. Do you know her?
I don't think
Okay.
I've ever met her, but I've heard about her.
Okay. She was good people. I like her. I'll tell you after. Remind me though.
There.
Okay.
I think it's,
So we're
it's
with
worth
Operation
yes.
the restoration.
Operation,
It was
yeah.
pretty obvious, and Mrs. Pepys was one of the leaders with Operation Clapboard, and I think Doris Duke took on afterwards, probably having a lot more money and seeing an opportunity for tax relief, continued on. But it certainly has been a substantial contribution to the city of Newport.
Did you realize how old and the historic value of some of the buildings?
Oh, I was aware of them, yes, I was. Well, I was because of my position, I suppose.
Did you know any of the workmen or craftsmen who took part in restoring?
I knew some of those men, sure. They used to come in the office.
Did you have any friends or relatives who were displaced by the renewal?
No.
Did you ever go to a city council meeting or to a planning board
I
meeting?
certainly did.
What were they like?
Some of them were awful.
Well, were most people for them, for the...
Oh, you mean for the restoration?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, most of that was done pretty quiet. I mean, there wasn't really any particular need for might have been a restriction here or there that needed to be changed, but there was no particularly
No particular opposition. Most
no,
people were for it.
most people
And there
for it, yeah.
weren't a lot of people who had to move out and couldn't
No,
find a
no,
place to live.
no.
None of this big displacement.
Well, I'm sure there was some, but still, it was all handled easily enough.
How was your particular neighborhood affected?
We didn't have much. There wasn't
Anybody
much
benefited from it?
restoration in there.
Mm-hmm. Nobody was hurt or displaced or...
No, not now.
That's all of that subject.
I think the only thing, if I may say, about restoration is I think it's probably made Newport a little more expensive to live in, and it certainly has raised the rent situation and the price of homes here by that. And I am sometimes a little fearful that a lot of people won't be able to keep up with this restoration.
That's an important issue.
I think a lot will say to you, where'd you get this man? Anyway.
Let's go on to the next topic then. America's Cup. What is your earliest recollection of the America's Cup series?
Well, my earliest recollection of the America's Cup was I said before, my father-in-law was the chief engineer for Arthur Curtis James's yacht, the Allure, and he was friendly with many of the engineers and the captains and the entourage that participated in the Cup and worked for the people who were sailing the yachts. Fred Lawton, to give you an example, he was on the Allure. Tom Lawton was on the Allure. Fred Lawton, I don't know what Fred, he was big in that America's Cup.
Did your father-in-law ever talk to you about the Cup boasting?
No, because they were different type of yachts. They were sailing yachts as distinguished from, they were both sailing steam.
Do you remember any particular America's Cup series?
Yeah, I was the guest on one of them on the destroyer, and I saw them.
Which one was that? What country?
Oh, it was America and, let me see, when was that? That was when Betsy was small. I went out one
first one in modern times was in 57.
57, maybe.
I think so.
Could have been there.
And that was England, Scepter. I think.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah. I didn't. I not having not enough knowledge about it, it didn't impress me that much.
What is your opinion about the America's Cup race's contribution to Newport?
Oh, I think they've contributed a great deal economically and socially, and given Newport and its environments a great deal of publicity.
Do you think there's been anything bad about it? Any
Nothing. No,
any detrimental?
No, nothing detrimental to that.
Has the America's Cup series affected your neighborhood at all?
No.
Or affected you personally?
No. No.
How do you feel about living in a city where events such as this take place?
I like it.
Do you think the America's Cup brings or brought diversity to Newport?
It does. And it will.
Anything else you'd like to comment on? Any of these subjects, not just the America's Cup?
No, I have no.
Thank you very much.
I can tell you're welcome.
It's